I'm about to tell you something crazy. Mega Man is my favorite video game series. Okay, kind of obvious, and while you might be able to figure out this one too from my channel banner, my second favorite series is probably Pokemon. That one is kinda weird though, given how vastly different the two are. Sure, both have good character designs, have understated stories but with a lot of lore buried underneath if you go digging, and excellent soundtracks, though Mega Man still beats Pokemon in this category by a good margin. But for actual gameplay, one's primarily a platformer, dare I say, action platformer, while the other is typically a turn-based RPG, much slower paced. What can I say, different days, I'm in the mood for different things. Still though, if they ever combine the two series, maybe a Mega Man X game with Mavericks based on Pokemon instead of real animals, or Pokemon that are more robotic in appearance, I'd probably be in heaven. Or so you'd think. One of the latest games, Pokemon Violet, does just that, and yet I find myself somehow underwhelmed. Spoiler warning for the end of the latest gen, but for those sticking around, I'm Wes, the Explosion, and today we'll be discussing the future of Paradox Pokémon and how they fall short of not just the designs from the Mega Man series, but also a similar concept from Sun and Moon. Allow me to summarize where these Pokémon come from. After completing the 3 main story paths, you cap off the game by teaming up with the central characters from each to head into the big, scary crater in the center of the map that you're not supposed to go near. There's a time machine at the bottom going a bit wild, and if you don't stop it, Pokemon from different time periods will overrun the region and mess up the ecosystem. In Scarlet, these come from the past and are more primitive and savage-looking versions of previously debuted Pokemon. These are kinda cool looking, and I'd say I like all of them except maybe Sandy Shocks, but that's not today's subject. No, we're gonna focus on Violet's exclusives, the Paradox Pokémon from the future. These are all mechanical forms of existing Mon, which very broadly sums up my issue with them. So like I said, they did something like this in Sun and Moon. The Ultra Beast were a set of special Pokemon that came from another dimension, much like how Paradox Pokemon come from a different period of time, and rather looking like they belong to the past or future, they look just plain alien. While opinions were mixed on these special Mon, I personally think they're pretty creative and cool looking. They all look like Pokemon, yet not, feeling very otherworldly, and while you could draw a few comparisons between some of them, for the most part, each feels pretty unique. Pheromosa is a beautiful cockroach lady, Kartana's an origami samurai, Blacephalon is a fireworks clown, and the future Paradox Pokemon are all just robot Pokemon. Heck, to a degree, they don't even feel like Pokemon, so much like machines in the general shape of Pokemon. Feels like we're just a few small steps away from rolling up in a tank painted in Lucario colors, with Anubis ears and googly eyes slapped on and saying that that's a Pokemon, but maybe I'm being a bit too harsh. Something I can say a bit more easily about the Ultra Beast is that all of them fit pretty well within their types. The black hole monster is a dark dragon, and the muscly mosquito is bug fighting. The only one I kinda raise an eyebrow at is Nihilego, being rock poison. When you consider that it's a glass-like jellyfish though, this goes from being totally weird to only kind of weird. For all the future Paradox though, you'd figure they'd be part steel, but nope, despite all of them having iron in the name, only Treads gets that distinction. Instead, each one is a combination of one new type and an old one from their original form, even when it doesn't really make sense. For Iron Thorns, I get the electric, but why is it part rock? Because Tyranitar was part rock, even though there's nothing rocky about this guy. And I guess Iron Bundle can probably freeze the water that's in its tank, but looking at it, you'd figure that the secondary type would be either electric or steel. These things have pretty inane typing, at least if you ask me. Then there's just how boring their names and lore are. When I first saw the name Iron Treads, I figured it was a code name, like how Nihilego was called UB01, Parasite, before you caught it and learned what its real name was, but nope, Iron Treads is Iron Treads, and each one of the future forms follows the same pattern. And then there's their dex entries, which are simply, the book says that they're probably called this, making these perhaps the dullest we've ever gotten. If you trade them over to Scarlet, you do get some weird entries that sound like tabloid headlines, like the Iron Jungulus being the love child of a Hydreigon and vacuum cleaner, which is pretty funny, But given that I don't think we're supposed to take these seriously, it still leaves us pretty in the dark on the Pokemon themselves. Maybe the anime will give these guys some personality. Oh, and to continue with the contrast to the Ultra Beast, Pheromosa doesn't like being touched because they consider everything outside of themselves to be unclean, and Guzzlord is constantly eating, but no one's ever found its poop. Now that's fun. Now let's look to a series with considerably more experience with sci-fi robot action, which you would expect it to surely be guilty of the same sins. We're talking about Mega Man. Covering the same points but in reverse, about the only thing I can't totally defend Mega Man for is the names. Yeah, I think having every robot master being called Something Man has some charm to it, and most Mavericks being a combination of whatever their specialty is with whatever animal they are, does conjure up some pretty cool images, even if you somehow don't know what the bosses look like, but I'm biased. I can see a lot of people finding the names pretty lame, and while I disagree, I wouldn't fight anyone on it. A lot of Pokemon names use puns, word mashups, and different languages to come up with some actually pretty clever monikers, so calling this new set of monsters all iron blah blah blahs might actually be the most mega thing about them. If anything else was meant to ape the series style though, they fall woefully short. I won't touch on the lore and personality stuff since most Mega Man characters have been around for long enough to be adapted into different media, and I'm sure the Paradox Pokémon will get the same treatment through anime and manga, if not DLC. They just seem a bit lame at the moment. No, let's move on to typing instead. While it might be a bit tempting to, excluding weirdos like Woodman and Stoneman, just type all of the Robot Masters and Maverick Steel and whatever their main element is and call it a day, I'd argue that you could get a bit more creative with these guys and it make a lot more sense, at least more so than how they cast these future forms. For Robot Masters, Crystal Man could be Rock Psychic, Iceman could be Mono Ice, and Shadow Man could be Dark, well, Steel, but the latter is due more to his weapon than what he's made of. For Mavericks, Flame Stag could be your fully evolved Fire Fighting starter, Acid Seahorse, Poison Water, Spiral Pegasus, Fairy Flying. Some might call me full of crap, but my point is, while each of these characters is a robot, they're more than just a robot. Cutman isn't just a metal lumberjack, he's a silly little guy that hops about and throws around his scissors that he keeps on his head. Chill Penguin isn't just a metal penguin, but an actual character, smirking, posing, laughing, and admiring his work. They all manage to be detailed and expressive, even on the NES and Super Nintendo, and each feel unique. A big part of that is their more humanoid appearances, so maybe I'm comparing apples and oranges here, but it still feels like the designs for these Pokemon fall short. Every one of them is just a robot. Like that's all they could conceive for what things might be like in the future, and that's what's boring. Each one works on its own, but as a group... Back to Mega Man. Again, they're all technically machines, but you have the Devil series, which is very different from your traditional metal creation. The ice bosses typically have parts of themselves be made of ice, and fire guys have fire coming off them. The flying characters have metal wings, but still have feathered patterns. None of them are just this thing, but made of steel. And that's only if we stick with the idea that all of the future forms have to be robots. Take a page out of the Yellow Devil's book again, and one could be made out of a futuristic material besides metal. Maybe rather than turning into a bot, one Pokemon evolved to take advantage of Wi-Fi signals. A lot of fairy types seem cosmic in origin, so maybe one changed to be more equipped for space travel. And that's just without a ton of thought. While I like a lot of the new Pokemon this gen, it really feels like there wasn't a lot of creativity when it came to the future Paradox Pokémon. At one point, the series did have Hitoshi Ariga, the mangaka probably best known for his work on the Megamix and Gigamix manga adaptations of the Blue Bomber, design some Pokemon. Pangoro was probably the most notable of what he came up with to give you a taste. It's a shame they didn't use him for this one, since I think the Paradoxes would have been right up his alley. I bet he would have probably been creative enough to vary them beyond just robots, but even if he did go that route, I think we would have gotten much more than just existing Mon with metal plating. Or maybe I'm just romanticizing the guy too much. I really like his work. It's not all bad though. We did get two Pokemon that were pretty mega, and they aren't even based on machines. Armor Rouge is a fire psychic, and it uses its armor to form a Mega Buster to deliver a charge shot. I named mine Roll. Cerule Edge is Fire Ghost and has cursed blade hands, like something out of Battle Network. though I named mine Iris. Some of my favorite designs from this round, and while likely unintentional, they blend the Mega Man and Pokemon styles superbly, much more so than the ones that sound like they conceptually should. You know, I think it's my love of both series that leaves me feeling so lukewarm about these guys. If I was a fan of just one, I'd probably think they were just fine. If I only liked Pokemon, I'd probably find it cool that they were doing something so sci-fi in the games. If just Mega Man, I'd probably be intrigued by adding robots to that Pokemon thing all the kids seem to like. It's because I have such a deep love and appreciation of both that causes me to have such high standards of what I expect. This whole discussion really has me wishing for a proper mashup. Something like I mentioned before, a Mega Man X parody where the bosses are Pokemon bots done in the Maverick style. Just think, Race Rapidash, Soaring Salamence, Terra Trevenant. I may like alliteration a bit too much, but yeah, if anyone's ever done this, please let me know. I really want to play it. Anyway, I've been wanting to talk about Violet's Paradox Pokémon ever since I finished the game, but I didn't know if I could justify it on a Mega Man channel. When a few of my other video plans fell through at the last minute this week, I found a way to tie the two together, and here we are. Hopefully I was coherent enough and the connection wasn't too tangential, but hey, what do you think? Do you like Pokemon, and would you want to play a proper crossover between that and Mega Man? Did you like the new additions this gen, particularly the future Paradoxes? Were you expecting better, or do you feel like Pokemon has been running out of ideas for a while now? Discussion welcome, although no on that last one. If you think that Game Freak was at their creative pinnacle back when they made Ball and Upside Down Ball, I will punch you in the kidneys. As always, thanks for watching. Maybe consider subscribing if you like Mega Man content. I promise that's what I mostly do here, and next week, hopefully I'll be a bit more on the ball.